everybody, and welcome to the very first episode of, I want to call it The Truth is the Truth is the Truth. And so hold on, I'm just going to make sure that I'm just going to go live on TikTok as well, just to have a double live. So hello and welcome. So this is going to be, how should I call it? A replay, a redo of a presentation I did about, I would say it's like 2 years ago now, that I did this previous presentation about the Charter of the Forest. This was like back in the day, when I was like trying to start out my podcast, the Rachel Z Project, but then realized that like no one really knows who that is. And then, like, why does anyone really care about the videos that you're putting out there, right? And so I guess this is a message also to any of you guys out there who are thinking of starting a podcast or any kind of talk show. So if you want to get this on Rumble, you can get that there if you want to get the presentation. But we're going to go through the Charter of the Forest. I have a little video. Hopefully, I don't know if the audio will come through on this, so I'll talk it through as I'm watching it. But I'm not in specific cosplay tonight. I'm kind of in like a semi Sailor Moon-ish kind of garb because I'm going to be doing some presentations in regards to astrology and Sailor Moon, how those mythologies and symbology match up. So stay tuned for that. But this is all about the Charter of the Forest, right? So quick history lesson. Do you guys know when the Charter of the Forest was created? It was 1217 back in the day, and it was alongside its sister document, companion document. Hold on. I need a little sip. So I want to tell this because what is history other than story time as well, right? So the Charter of the Forest is a beautiful kind of document, right? Because, well, I used to love, when I was a little kid, I wanted to be a zoologist when I grew up. I really just wanted to work with animals. I was kind of like, I don't really want to deal with people so much. So animals are just easier to deal with. Animals have a lot of healing powers to them as well. I have a lot of, I do still love animals a lot, and I do still see that as being something in the future. But going back to the Charter of the Forest, it's the companion document to the Magna Carta. Now, everyone knows about the Magna Carta because, like, freedom is associated with it, right? Like, all the barons got together and was like, listen, king, you can't just do what you want. We need to have some guardrails around it. So it's also like a way of exemplifying how important, how should I put it? How important documentation is, and like what writing is, and like putting things to paper, having that exist is quite important when it comes to stories, right? I'm typically on lives doing comic book reads right now just because I look at comic books as being like a new type of mythology, and I just look at it as just another way of understanding a lot of the more classical symbolism that you might find in things like astrology or like classical analysis of, like, let's say your novels and stuff. So like when I was growing up, quick background tip, my degree, I have an English degree, actually, an English literature degree alongside a psychology degree. I thought, what did I think? I thought I was going to become a marriage therapist or child psychologist or something along those lines. And so I didn't do that. I came to Toronto. I ended up, I go-go danced, I modeled, I did personal training, all the stuff. I moved to the city a long time ago, so 2007. And so at that time, the city was a much different place. It's changed a lot, I would say. And I have come back around to being a much more creative person after working in corporate for a while, right? And working in the hospitals as a digital project manager and all that kind of good stuff. So I'm just trying to bring that all around to educating and talking about stories, because there are, like, you could listen to history and it be like a really dry like history lesson, like where you're like, oh my gosh, in like 1844 this happened and then this happened in here. So like I like astrology because it's a more fun way of looking at like time space and like marking time space, because you're looking at the cosmos as that's happening. So that's just a personal opinion. I look at it as a navigation tool to all of like time space and different realities and where you've come and where you're going, and not a way to necessarily forecast, but a way to foreshadow per se, right? Because time does not repeat itself, it rhymes, right? So when we think about these stories of the past that I'm going to tell you guys right now, in terms of like the Charter of the Forest and how that came to be, because the Magna Carta really was, like we think of like the Magna. You know what? Let me pull something up and read you guys some fun facts, fun history lesson. This story is not supposed to be about that right now. Uh, but I hope you guys are doing good tonight. I'm not, I'm doing this as like a test as well. I'm not usually live at this time, and I'm usually reading comic books to you guys, but I wanted this to be more about like an explanation as to why I even read you guys comic books. There's a bigger mission at hand when it comes to that, because I think that resonance, when you think about resonance, when you vibe with something. Aw, oh, sorry, babes. Oh, well, I want you to feel good. Well, I think the big message I think about the Charter of the Forest that I want to leave to you guys is that I like to think of us as like earthlings, like children of the earth, caretakers of the planet, being. Oh, I am early right now. This isn't a cosplay reading right now. That's coming later. Those are going to be later. But I did want to give you guys some context in terms of why I even do the cosplay readings, and you guys like resonating. Yes, and that is why she is called Mother Earth. She is all of our mothers, right? And so the Charter of the Forest is all about this document that was actually created so long ago, but we forget about it, right? Actually, in 2015, they like paraded this document around Canada, where I'm at, right? And as a way of being like, look at that. Like we are all called on as being like stewards of the forest, guardians of all nature and life itself. And so, what does this have to do with stories as a whole, and why I read comic books, right? Well, if you read Supergirl along with me, she was actually referred to as an Earth Angel, which you find kind of like interesting, right? Because you're like, aren't you Kryptonian, Supergirl? So, like, how are you also an Earth Angel? Now, when we think of these types of words like angel, goddess, princess, any of these, like, I love all of them. I feel like I'm all of them as well. And I feel like every woman, every person, you have an ability to embody a lot of these characters. You're doing an art blog on, yes, for sure. I will drop in when on Saturday morning, evening, night. Give me a time frame. I'll drop in, drop some likes. I'm all about the art. It's so crazy too, because as I said, history is like a story, right? And so astrology is just another way of looking at it. So I'm just going to flip to my presentation on my other screen. It's basically, oh, I was looking up Magna Carta stuff. So the Magna Carta, I'm just going to read. It's the Charter of Rights, basically agreed to by the King John of England at Runnymede near Windsor, and first drafted by the Archbishop of Canterbury to make peace between the unpopular king and a group of rebel barons. It promised the protection of church rights, protection for the barons from illegal imprisonment, access to swift and impartial justice, and limitations of feudal payments to the crown, to be implemented through a council of 25 barons. Now, the thing I want to bring into like play with the Magna Carta is just that has to do with the barons. And so when the Charter of the Forest happened, that more had to do with like regular old people like you and me, and like living in the forest, because it very clearly Oh, I hope you guys can hear it. Let's see.
I am the memories.
So, you know what? This is worth a live 12:15. You mean like that's afternoon, right? You're not meaning like midnight. Oh, thank you. This is like half Sailor Moon. I'm going to go into that in just a moment after I finish my chart of the forest. Talk, I guess, briefly, because I'm just going to explain like why that even matters. Why the heck do you care? The chart of the forest and like why it exists and stuff, right? So because you guys know like Robin Hood, right? Robin Hood and his merry men. And you know, like he like went off to go fight in the Crusades, and then I mean the Magna Carta was 1215. Yes, you're correct, Magna Carta. And then I think 1217 was when the Charter of the Forest was written, and the Magna Carta had to do with the barons, and the Charter of the Forest, the companion document, had to do with free people. And the Charter of the Forest, the story behind it too is that it was written by not written by, but it was a boy king and his knight that ended up creating this document because they didn't want to have an uprising from free people, right? Because, you know, no one has a right to tell you what you can do on the land. Like, I talked to my hubby about this the other day. Like, I live in Canada and there's a lot of beautiful land across this country. And so it's a matter of being caretakers of it. And so that's all it is. And I went on a huge tangent because I wanted to get back to Robin Hood and his merry men, and the fact that um, the story there was that like Robin Hood like was off uh, fighting the Crusades, and then when he came back, his lands had been taken by the evil King John, right? Yes, that's right. And then so uh, he's like, "What the heck? This isn't fair." And then so he goes off into the forest to take refuge with the rest of the people who don't have anywhere to go. I think the point is that the forest is everyone's home. We do a lot of like I've just seen Toronto also just grow so much, and like I have this little video that I'm trying to put up of like me interviewing this like gopher that lives in like my neighborhood around here, but they've like since like overlaid a whole bunch of stuff with like concrete. And so it's just kind of like, what happened to your habitat? And then like this like weird thing of like then the government being like, you have to pay a fee to like come to a provincial park, where it's like, this sounds a little like crown stuff again, you know? Like um there's no way of knowing that like any of your like taxes go towards actually caretaking the forest. Like there's so many tops of buildings I wish in Toronto they would use towards making gardens, or like you could just use all of that towards like maybe solar panels. There's like a bunch of stuff you could kind of do to make living more harmonious with nature herself, because that's the big takeaway of the Charter of the Forest, you know, just this idea that we are all like guardians of her, Mother Earth, and when we go out and we ground, let's see if I can play this.
Of the woods, of the trees, and the people that have lived, worked.
Okay, I'll bring this. I'll bring this up again when you all can see what I'm seeing. I'm gonna save this. I'll save a link and I'll put this reminder to everyone for that. So I'm just gonna come back to this screen and then talk a little bit more about the stories as it comes to now, and how we can use that to like empower ourselves, and why I'm dressed as Sailor Moon, because the moon in astrology represents the inner world, your subconscious, all of like all of that stuff that is like on like the unseen side. So when you think of like your whole astrological stack makeup, you have your rising sign, your sun sign, and your moon sign. And so moon signs are all of the moon moves every 2 hours, right? So it's a level of oh, thank you. So I'm going to come off of TikTok for a little. little bit. Thank you for joining. And then I'm just going to finish up on Rumble. So I'll catch you guys next time for the live cosplay read. So stay tuned for that. And I'll come check out the live art on Saturday, Kev Art. Okay, till next time. Bye. Okay, so I just wanted to do that quick, test that out. And so my Rumble audience, hello. So let's go into the video I wanted to show you guys.
I am the memories of the woods, of the trees, and the people that have lived, worked, and played here from the dawn of time. I would like to take you back to a time that you would call the medieval period, almost 1,000 years ago, when the people first named me Nova Foresta. But my story...
Let's hold on to that. I like that. Nova Foresta. Let's keep that.
Story starts a long time before that. For as long as I can remember, from when it was bitterly cold, people have lived here. They hunted and gathered food from the plants and animals, and eventually started to farm their own crops. My trees, heath,
okay, so I'm going to skip forward a little bit so you can ground ourselves in time space here. We're in the medieval period, and then we're just going to always... So it's funny because it's the trees narrating this, right? So
and their animals grazed on the gorse and grass across the open landscape. Flint for tools was replaced by bronze. Then iron was discovered and used. Iron was now used to make a wide range of tools. Later, crops. William the Conqueror became the ruler of England. He brought new ideas and laws to this land. He enjoyed hunting for food, but more for the fun of it. It was around 1079 that he called me Nova Foresta, and I became a place to entertain his friends and family. Hunting.
Okay, so let's recap. In the beginning of this video, this is actually, I'm not taking any credit for this. This is by the New Forest National Park Authority. You can go check out the video and I'll leave a link to the follow-up in this if you want to watch it in full. This is just to help give a full synopsis of like why the Charter of the Forest story is so important. Now in the beginning, they're trying to talk about the timelines of like the forest has always been there, right? Before it has been cultivated or used for farmland, it has been there. So it's told from this perspective of the trees being like, hey, we were there from when flint became bronze, and then bronze became iron, and then that iron was used in plows that were used to then till the fields. That's just a way to kind of show the passage of time and how the trees were there before that. And then now we have William the Conqueror, which I do believe that this so-called royal family derives their lineage from, right? So William the Conqueror came and basically was like, hey, this forest is like it's like my forest basically, and I'm going to use it to entertain all my friends and family. So that's where we're at. Let's keep going.
Putting the beasts to the chase like deer and wild boar. He stopped people already living here from using the land as they once had.
I order you to stop hunting by the power of the king.
But where will I get my dinner now?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's like, I feel like literally what is still happening, but just done under a different guise, and us knowing the reasons for why the Charter of the Forest was created in the first place is super important to note.
Take this fence down by order of the king. But sire, how will I stop the deer from eating my crops? Breaking those forest laws could result in harsh fines, loss of a limb, even death, whatever the king decided. Come, take your punishment like a man. Come, here.
Oh man.
It made life here very hard for those that once relied on the forest to support and feed their families, and some had to leave. For almost 200 years, this was the way of things. The fines got bigger, the punishments got harsher, and the people got more and more upset. I cannot protect my crops, I cannot collect firewood, I cannot build a barn, and I can't afford the immersement for grazing of livestock.
Maybe we could have a better life if we left.
Where could we go even if the master let us go?
Oh no. Okay, so now we are in a situation where people who rely on the land for their livelihood and to survive and to live and to provide for their families are now being punished for hunting on their own land because it's considered crown land. So that's where we're at. We're now, Turn of the Forest comes in to hopefully save the day.
In 1216, almost 200 years had passed, and each new king had taken more and more land for royal hunting. The current ruler, King John, upset not only the people, but also the big landowners, the barons, and England is at war with itself. In 1216, King John died.
Okay, so that's important to note. So if you guys are familiar with the Magna Carta, that was in 1215, right? So when the barons, I think they called them like the rogue barons, renegade barons, came in and made King John sign the Magna Carta. So then he died in 1216. So remember, Charter of the Forest is until 1217. So in between those two documents, yeah, King John croaks.
And his 9-year-old son was crowned king, King Henry III. To put an end to the barons' war and to halt the harsh forest laws, Henry III issued new rules and gave new promises in 2 documents that became known as the Magna Carta and the Charter of the Forest. He returned some lands to their former state, removing them from forest law, and stopped some of the harsher punishments. Stop the battle! No longer would someone lose their life for hunting a king's deer. No! Stop it! This is at an end. He also gave back and protected people's common rights to use the forest to support and feed their families. At last, I can protect my crops.
Yeah.
Collecting this underwood for the cooking fire is much easier than digging peat, isn't it?
I found a stick for the fire.
They weren't allowed to do
And
that.
now our animals are free to graze wherever they please. Hooray!
Okay. So I think, wonder when they published this. 6 years ago. Is that about right? No, a little bit afterwards. Um, I was just trying to see if it matched up to being about when they paraded the Magna Carta around. I think they might talk about that.
It's been 800 years since the Charter of the Forest was first issued. The Charter of the Forest changed how people related to, use, and later cared for the land. Today, the New Forest is still a protected landscape, not for royal hunting, but recognised for its special qualities, unique landscapes and habitats, and people use and care for me in new ways. People have always been a part of the forest and will be so in the future. This little-known charter was revolutionary in showing that the king was not above the law and in restoring common property rights. It could also be seen as the first written environmental law to protect the environment and provide for sustainable land use by local communities. I hope you will play your part in the next chapter of my story so that I survive for another 800 years.
Wow, that was interesting, wasn't it? I hope you enjoyed that little recap of the Charter of the Forest story. So what does that mean for you right now? It's funny because we think about like provincial parks and it's funny, like I live in downtown Toronto, right? And so I was walking down the street one day and I saw this like lone tree with a fence around it, and it said protected by like, I don't know, Ontario Parks and Recreation or whatever that was, or Parks and whatever the park people are, Parks and Forestry. But like, it's like, where are your friends at, man? Like, there's this strange thing of saying that the funds are going towards conservation and protecting the environment, but what does that really mean? Are we teaching our children how to plant trees or how to grow food or learn to have a relationship with the earth herself? That's not quite so much the agenda, it seems like. And oftentimes when I was listening to that story told by the claymation trees, just talking about how these punishments that's made out of nowhere because William the Conqueror decided to like make it a place for him to show off to his buddies. And you know, in Toronto, when we're dealing with like Ontario Place and some of these places that the government, the foreign government, has gone off and like sold off to private ownership when really it is supposed to be for the communities. We have a document that's 800 years old that supports that, and if we don't adhere to the documents by which our whole civilization is based on, then like, what do we have, right? And so I feel like there's a lot of that in the vibration of the air right now, and I wanted to start doing these Tuesday live streams on Rumble, underneath the umbrella of Quantum Play Studios, which is a subsidiary of Golden Sugar Productions, which is my production company, which deals with all the logistics and background technical stuff as it comes to going live and putting on events, as well as sound production, DJ, dance, entertainment as well. So that's Golden Sugar Productions, a way of not dealing with, but having a bit more fun and adding a bit more sparkle to the New Earth media. And this is a revisitation of that Charter of the Forest story that I did underneath the umbrella of the Rachel Z Project, but want it to be more of standing on its own and have this just to be about the truth is the truth is the truth. And the Charter of the Forest is a document that exists, and there's some very powerful statements in that document, such as, you know, free men are allowed to make their stead in the forest. You can't keep people out of their forest. And you know, we had incidents happen in parks close to where like I live here in Toronto, and where they're just sold off by the city, and then you have to pay tickets just to enter your own park, which is protected by the government. So there's a bit of a conundrum there, some more stuff that needs to be unpacked. So I'll be putting all of these resources in a fun little area, probably on my Substack going forward. I've been trying to reorganize a lot more of this content, a lot more of, I guess, the more the investigative journalistic aspects, but also like just looking back at history and finding the truth in the story, right? Like history books and how they're told are all told by a certain perspective. You very often don't get to all sides of the story. So it's nice to look back and get one perspective, look at it through a lens, look at it through another lens. And so my hope is perhaps in the future we can have more roundtable conversations about the Charter of the Forest and how we can use this 800-year-old document to support us in a new earth. Novo Foresta, right? So the new forest, the new world. What does that look like as us being guardians and stewards of that? So I hope you enjoyed this first edition of The Truth is the Truth show, which is going to go live every Tuesday just on Rumble. All the replays will be available on all the other channels, but for the live stream to get it right away, just on Rumble under Quantum Play. And if you want to join us on Locals to help support all of what we do, you can do that for just at $5 a month, and that should be underneath this Rumble channel thing as well. All right, my friends, I hope you have a beautiful day, beautiful evening wherever you are in the cosmos. Until next time, bye.